What's going on, guys? We are back today for that Around the Hearth. And I literally just got done recording the Ranger video, and then I come over here to talk to these guys. These guys, of course, being Joe, Donald, and from the Interplanar Crossroads, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Adam Spain. All three of you. I mean, 2 out of 3 people in this chat were the first 2 patrons of this channel. So as always, thank you guys so much for your support. And yeah, I'm not processing the Ranger anymore. The Ranger's really good. The Ranger is phenomenal. I'm super stoked about it. But I might be seeing it through, like, the rosy glasses that I've always wanted the Ranger to be really good. And now he is. So I'm curious as to what you guys think. Because, by the way, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the Ranger, and we're talking about the magic item update that we saw on Friday. So, yeah, guys.
The Ranger combined with the magic items that they get, using them as first edition as NPCs as a GM. I like the Ranger for what they're designed for if you design them properly. With all of the feats that they get, and then the traps they get to make if you invest in a trap type of play style. They are quite a viable trap maker, which using traps as a player is quite fun if you can actually get to use it on a regular basis. In one game I actually played, I didn't get to use traps all that much in the game, but I actually spent thousands upon thousands of gold to use a lot of mines to do 30d6 damage, and I just felt dirty rolling all the dice to kill a bunch of enemies.
Yeah, it feels really good. And I agree with you. I think Rangers were probably my favorite. Well, I really like Magi, but Rangers are also, they're real good for a GM because, like, you'll have your favorite enemies. You know what your favorite enemies are. You GM for them. And you have your, like, favorite terrains and stuff, too. But that was its big downfall, right? In first edition, unless you're playing an AP or you have a GM who's really nice. You're like, hey, man, what should my favorite enemies be? And he tells you. Otherwise, you're, like, spec'd to do exactly the wrong thing. It's like picking flavorful languages for your characters with linguistics. And like, hey, man, I speak giant. Never comes up.
Agreed. Rangers First Edition, my only issue was that unless you knew the adventure path or the setting, choosing languages and favorite enemies or favorite enemy and train types, it's one way to mess up a Ranger build.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And it's not even like the good mess up. It's not like, man, this build is so good, I need to respond to it. Hold up, wait a minute. No, it's just, that build is kind of playable. Let's make it not. Haha. Yeah. That just sucks.
Yeah, such as trying to play a merfolk in a land-based game that you don't have access to increasing your effective move speed is one way to ruin a merfolk ranger build.
Oh yeah, that's even worse. Oh my god.
Well,
unless you're in the water.
He's referring to a ranger post about a ranger that actually did that. A player actually did that.
Yeah, I know of certain races. They are great rangers, but only in certain environments only, effectively.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
I mean, Rangers are great only in certain environments.
Yeah, Rangers, when it comes to races and in their natural environment, they're fantastic, such as Merfolk Ranger in water or a Strix in an environment that they are a actual expert in as a Ranger.
Yeah, for sure.
Very fun for a Strix Ranger in a Strix environment.
Well,
you know,
I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh,
you guys
geez, we're having a nice off. I was just going to say the main thing that stuck out to me when it comes to the Ranger always had, like, the thing that made me super sad about them, other than the fact that they specialized to a downfall, was that their spells were just so lackluster. Like, they had a few good ones, like the gravity bow and the one where you get arrow bombs, essentially. But taking away the spells, it seems to focus the class more. Being able to, like they kind of have spells still with their snares, but they're more like an alchemist. It's kind of like they applied the alchemist idea to the Rangers. Like alchemists are always kind of like some sort of strange Frankenstein's monster of magical classes. It was good, don't get me wrong, but it was always just kind of like haphazardly shoved together, I feel like.
Yeah.
And now the Ranger is kind of like following that same like fixing like point of view that they've given it. Like now it's not a magical class, now it's just simply a class that's really good at doing stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a lot better. Like, the only time I played a ranger in Pathfinder First Edition, I played a skirmisher, and the skirmisher loses its spells in, like, favor of the kind of stuff that it seems like the ranger's getting anyway. Now, I'll say that, like, there were some real good ranger spells, like Instant Enemy, which sounds like 2 minutes in the microwave, but actually makes your favorite enemy sometimes viable. But, of course, spell resistance is real, but...
Forests you could put in the sink and they grow.
Yeah, it was really, really powerful. But I totally get why, and that was one of my predictions, was that the Ranger was going to lose its spell casting stuff. And instead now it has a Smite Evil, essentially. A Smite Evil that makes it better at two-weapon fighting. Which is, I don't know how I feel about that, except that I really like it. It's so cool.
Rangers are characteristically something in Dungeons and Dragons in general that have been the person that you pick to dual wield ever since Drizzt Do'Urden did it. Ever since R.A. Salvatore's books became popular, the Ranger was the dual wielder because he could get some stuff done. Now that didn't mean that he was better at it than the fighter, it's just that his characteristical archetype was there.
And also he could take the two-weapon fighting feats without meeting the dex prerequisite, which is super relevant in a low point buy.
And I mean, I liked the way they've changed changed it to hunt target. They do feel more like hunters and skirmishers and stuff like that. And I like that they've changed it to changed hunt target to where you can apply it to an enemy, not to like you guys were talking about, a specific type of creature. Though I may suggest that Paizo change it to you can do hunt target on a specific creature, and once that creature is done, like basically once that smite is done on that creature, you can shift it to another type of creature.
So kind of like chain challenge that Hobgoblin Cavaliers could get in First Edition.
Having the ability to change targets after one is dead, that is definitely one thing that I like about the Second Edition Ranger compared to the first when it comes to your favorite enemy.
I mean, you can definitely do that still too. Like the way action economy works in Second Edition, like I'm gonna take my and I like it so much because it gives you increased range increments, which we don't know the range increments in Second Edition quite yet. So you can't be wigging out about a bow that's going to shoot 500 feet. But say you are, and I had a Slayer that did this for a long time. He's a Paladin synthesis named Sinvolka now. But dual wielding tomahawks, you kill a dude with the first tomahawk, and then that's your first action. Your second action, you hunt the guy who's 20 feet away. It increases or decreases your range increment penalty, and then you throw a throwing axe 20 feet and hit a dude. And does this mean throwing weapon builds are viable out the gate? Because I really hope so, because they're my favorite thematic builds to be able to play, and now it seems like they're going to be playable. Because a longbow in First Edition had a range increment or a composite longbow had a range increment of 110. You have to be within 100 feet to hunt a target, so it's not as relevant to you, unless you're a crossbow build, to hunt for the purpose of I need to shoot 200 feet short of that harpy is going to fly away, and how dare they. But the throwing weapon guy, whose range is 10 feet, and will probably provoke if he throws at the dude with the pike or the lion with the teeth or whatever, if we can extend that, that makes it playable. And that's right out the gate.
It's throwing...
I'd certainly love to be able to play my Native American Brave-themed build. Because it's not... Ranger would fit best with a Brave, but... Rangers are not particularly viable for a Brave in most campaigns, because again, that favorite enemy thing gets gets in trouble.
It truly
And
does.
if you're gonna do that, you may as well go hunter instead. Hunter or now the what is it? The shifter.
Or the Slayer. The Slayer did it really well too.
Having the ranger or making throwing weapons a viable play style, it's something I definitely want to see more of in second edition, because some of my favorite weapons, as much as I do like them, they were not viable for certain throwing weapon builds, such as daggers. I always imagine the dexterity, fast characters able to throw weapons and do a lot of damage like that, such as daggers or knives.
Yeah, for sure.
But mechanically, the range and the damage is not worth the feat investment.
That was very
I don't
feat
know.
taxy to get it to be viable, and even then, it's not that viable.
This type of ranger might actually replace the rogue as the knife thrower pick. If that's what you're going for your
Rangers have always felt like an off-center rogue, though. I feel like they've always kind of like been on the cusp of doing the things that the rogue can do. It's just that they were really bad at it in first edition for the most part.
I agree.
Yeah,
Same with the
I've
Paladin,
always
because I
felt
feel
like
like
a
the
mix
Paladins,
between
like
a
his,
rogue and a druid.
like the Paladin had Smite Evil, but it would only work against certain things. The Ranger had Favorite Enemies, which only worked against certain things. The Paladins was just so much more broad, and also Charisma to saves. So
Yeah.
that's why it's all more play.
My experience with the ranger is they are sort of a hybrid class, not bad in one area, but not good in another area. They're better than a fighter in some areas, better in certain areas than a rogue, and have something that a hunter, but that is it. So sort of a mixed hybrid class.
I feel like they're making the Ranger a first edition rogue, and like kind of like the Unchained rogue, because of these new Ranger feats. That the two example ones that they show you just on the community blog, he's Buffy all of a sudden. Now he's buffing things, and it's kind of weird, I guess.
Spreading
I
around
don't
the
know.
bonuses.
Yeah, like initiative rolls and next attack roll, and your allies get a +1 circumstance bonus. Again, next attack roll against a creature that you're hunting, which is just kind of like I don't know. It's nice that they're fanning him out again. I'm hoping that when they do like a complete release of it, that they're not going to have him try and be a jack of all trades, master of none, because it's gonna dilute his powers a little bit if they try and do that. I feel like.
Right, and I think that'll depend a lot on what class feats they start throwing around.
Yeah.
And what prestige classes and archetypes they start throwing around.
I agree.
You could definitely go with you could definitely make wrong choices with a ranger in a different way than you can make wrong choices with a fighter who gets so many feats that it's not necessarily going to matter.
You can still screw up a fighter real bad if you shoot.
Yeah, you could.
But
Fighters,
not so much in second edition.
Fighters are one class that it have more leeway when it comes to how bad they can be. But rangers, through archetypes or feats, definitely want to see if through archetypes you can actually get access to the ranger's spells, because a magic user ranger is a viable build still.
Yeah, no, I agree. Also, like, I don't know exactly how I feel about how the Rangers buffing the squad's initiative, but I know I really like it. It feels... I don't want to say it feels like the Shaman or the Witch as they're like, or the Bard, I guess, being more the like iconic party buffer of Pathfinder 1E, but like... That's really cool. It's really flavorful for a scout too, and especially if you've got like really, really not good at initiative characters, which is gonna be hard in second edition because it's tied to a skill now. So like I guess like if someone is forced to roll perception for initiative when they're usually rolling like intimidate, or if they're rolling stealth or blase, then it's a buff.
Well,
And I think going first maybe this is my inner competitive Magic guy talking, but going first is very, very important to surviving the fight.
yeah, there's benefits to going second sometimes, but not all the time. It depends very much on what the encounter is.
That's fair.
Because as long as we're not talking about getting a free round in, like with a surprise round.
Yeah.
The Scout's Warning, though, doesn't make them roll perception. It just gives them a circumstance bonus when initiative is rolled.
Yeah.
So this also does indicate that as a ranger, you might, if you do take Scout's Warning, you might want to spec more into perception than you do stealth for your initiative rolls.
You should always spec into perception.
Yeah, I mean that's
Unless
the
you're a
skill.
paladin.
Not with second edition, because second edition runs off of initiative based upon what you're doing in exploration mode beforehand.
That's true, but like
So
I still
if
like
you're
to see stuff.
stealthing as a rogue. Yeah, well, I mean, if you're stealthing as a rogue, you can run off of that. Or if you're doing dungeoneering, you could run off of that.
Yeah.
If it happens before you initiate the combat. So
Perception
that
is
could be
still always a skill you need to put something.
Yeah. I don't think I've
You
ever been
can't
to a
ignore
game
perception.
like ever where no one said, "Hey, make a perception check." If nothing else, that's like the icebreaker or the like we need to do stuff in this game. Hey, look,
Yeah.
a hover car. But y'all know
Yeah.
all about that.
Yeah,
Yep.
Uh,
I think with second edition, it may be possible to change that paradigm, though. Because instead of just making them roll perception, you can say they're walking around in a dungeon. You can just say, "Roll me a lore dungeoneering" or a lore dungeons.
That's possible.
Instead of saying, you can, as a GM, perception is the default for what you're using. It's not anymore the necessity for finding things out, or for your initiative, or your initiative bonus for what you're perceiving. Because you could say, well, it would warrant this fighter who does a lot of dungeon delving and now is a master in his skill of dungeoneering, is able to notice patterns in dungeons and say that can be his initiative boost while in a dungeon. So there's bonuses either way, I think.
Having an initiative based upon what is the appropriate skill in the area is definitely a good way to have people initiative be better in certain areas. So someone perception is great, they're going to have a great role when using perception for initiative while dungeoneering, great initiative when it comes to using dungeoneering in those environments. So having more versatility in the initiative order for rolling it's a good idea to see if it can be done properly.
Yeah. Nobody doesn't like a +1 to the turn order, and like one wonders, in addition to bonuses on like attack rolls and stuff and initiative, what else the ranger can do to be a party buffer. It kind of like, it sort of makes him feel like Aragorn with the hobbits in Fellowship as they're trying to get to Rivendell. And that flavor feels real good for me.
It feels like the flavor that they were meant to have.
+1 to second breakfast.
Yeah.
+1. Second breakfast.
Elevensies.
If you take second breakfast, you get a +1. So
Man, that seems like some weird halfling feats, and I am so down.
I do think that halflings. Paizo, if you're listening, give us an actual official class, even if it's just for halflings as an archetype or something like that they can get boosts from food.
Like a halfling bloat mage.
I am picturing
Hunger mage or something like that.
I'm picturing a archetype for the wizard called the cook mage, and have him in all the food items he make that give buffs to everyone effectively, or being a cleric archetype, the food connoisseur, or what would be the appropriate halfling term for expert in food.
The gourmet.
The gourmet. Yeah, there's the archetype, the gourmet.
We've
That's
done
the
it.
That's the name of the archetype. It's something that I'm kind of a little, I guess, confused about. is that at 12th level it talks about getting distracting shot to make a couple ranged attacks so that the ranger could make that person flat-footed, that enemy flat-footed for the rogue to then go after and get their sneak attack on. But at 12th level, we're looking at a rogue who's already a master, is it? Master, expert, and legendary is how I think it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So he's already a master in stealth. They're already likely not to see him. I don't know. It seems like it's going to be, if you do take that feat, that 12th level feat, it's going to be viable for maybe 3 levels before they get up to expert or legendary expert, because expert's really all you need in stealth to be super viable.
Well, the thing about flat-footed in 2nd edition, and I really, really like it, is that, like, if I make you flat-footed, I put a -2 to your AC, and that means it's a little easier for everyone else in the squad to critically hit you.
Right.
Which,
it's a status ailment now.
Mm-hmm. Which, like, they say it's for the rogues to sneak attack. I'm pretty sure by level 12 the rogues have that in the bag. And, like, the secret thing here is, like, that makes it easier for the barbarian who's coming back around to his 3 rounds of rage. It still feels weird. I still know how I feel, man. To be able to get that +2 and be able to, like, score a critical hit on a dude. Of course, you have to hit him twice, whereas distracting shot of old was you deliberately missed your first to make him distracted for the rest of until your next turn. So it's a little wonky, but you could definitely pull it off.
Having those feats there for certain level of play, it's a good idea. Still. From my experience playing tabletops, based upon the group you play in, sometimes you don't see some of the high class level powers or features be used. So only like 3 or 4 levels, and then the campaign is over. So having feats like this can help a party for a short-term campaign.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair.
Yeah, not every single campaign that begins off at level 1 and at level 20. So some of them just end 2, 3, or even 4 levels, and the campaign is over.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I can see that. I can see how if you're only playing if you know that you're only playing to a certain level, like if you know you're only going to level 15, by the time they take their master in that, you can get rid of it. And there are going to be rules, if I remember right, for retraining in your downtime and stuff. So, I mean, taking a feat at 12th level for distracting shot and then retraining it out later with downtime is not a big deal. I'm not sure that I like the idea of feats like distracting shot becoming less viable. I mean, I agree with Tommy's assessment that it's not really for the rogues, it's for everybody. They are meant to snare and debuff and trap and trip the enemy.
Those class feats are situational at best, so unless the party agree what feat they're going to be taking, it is a situational feat at best for the party to take advantage of.
That's fair.
I will reiterate that I like what Joe and Donald said. I like also, as they said, the snares, because it does kind of feel like the alchemy thing, mainly because there's crafting involved. My concern is I want to make sure that taking freezing snare, for example, freezing snare is a snare of 8th level complexity or something like that is how it's, I guess that's what they mean, snare 8. Cold consumable mechanical snare trap for probably immunities and stuff like that for the enemies.
Yeah.
It's a consumable, like the slowing trap is only 2 gold pieces. That's still 20 silver, but it's 20 silver to slow down an enemy for a turn. That's not bad.
Yeah,
That's
that seems
not bad.
good. Seems real good. Especially because the ranger
or an
could take the
adventurous
alchemy
base,
feats. Like, he'll never be as good as the alchemist is, but he could do it, and you could spec into it, and it seems a lot more playable
Well, he's
Especially,
probably going to be a poison user as well.
oh yeah, I didn't think about that. That's definitely a thing.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I've been
Z,
doing a
Z,
lot of Dune research, and poison is incredibly important in that game system. So
Fair
I'm
enough.
thinking about poisons all the fucking time.
Yeah.
with second edition, if I remember correctly, they want to make diseases, poisons effects more deadly.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you
Poison is brutal in second edition. At least it's like it
so
seems like it's gonna be that way.
so any class that get access to the poison user feature, and then get to make poison with the party aiding them, that's going to be a deadly combo right there, combined with the traps
So
that the rangers have.
there's definitely a lot of synergy within the party that, like, I don't expect the ranger to fulfill that role in first edition. I expect him to be a full bab that can move through the forest, is good at some things sometimes, or might be a skirmisher with some tricks, and actually is probably a hunter. But, like, I'm not saying no to it. That's the freezing snare trap is essentially the grenade bouquet from Fallout 3 that you'd open the door and then you're dead. I remember 2000 and what, 7, 8 when Fallout. Actually, I didn't play
Fallout
Fallout
3.
I played Fallout 3 like 2010, so I was way behind. But the point is, it was super lethal, and that's 68 cold damage on a critical failure is really nice. And eventually, with class feats, you can set these up in the middle of combat. That feels real cool. It's kind of like you are the Tanglefoot bag or the caltrops. Now, caltrops are like, you don't think a lot about caltrops, but caltrops are very good. Pathfinder First Edition, that'd be real bad.
Cow drops, if you use them effectively, they can be quite deadly. One time,
yeah.
I actually used cow drops in a game once, and we were facing up against a displacer beast nest, and we almost lost the fight. And it could have been a TPK, but if it wasn't for the cow drops doing bleed damage continually to the displacer beast, we would have had lost that fight. So cow drops are useful if you can use them.
In my experience, it's always been the opposite. It's always been like, and Joe knows because he GM'd this. It's the run away button. You run away and you throw caltrops, and then suddenly everyone's bleeding, and a couple characters got away because you can't run after. Now, if the ranger can like buff these, make like the Uber caltrop or something, I don't know how. Probably ask his friend the alchemist to turn him into little landmines. I don't know. It seems really, really good. And like, when we play second edition, when I'm not GMing Doomsday Dawn, and by the way, guys, if you haven't heard, it's going to be sometime tonight that I announce the winners of the giveaway, and in addition, announce our next one. Like, when I play this, I am playing a ranger. I am set, I am sold. That is what I am doing based on this blog, because this seems real good.
One of the observations for snares is it's going to be one of those things where you want to have hallways to get the most out of your snares, or choke points, which is understandable. That's kind of how snares work anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have them on trails. But if you've got a wide open map, they're going to be less viable, so you might want to think about that. Also, the freezing snare, I hope that they would kind of make this modular, because a freezing snare, I don't know, there's a couple
like
of
elemental
problems that
spell?
I feel like there are. Yeah, like instead call it elemental snare, and you can add in whatever you want. Like you can put in, like, even if you wanted to mix and match, that would make it really cool. Elemental snare, where you put in one deal of alchemist fire, one deal of acid, and then one deal of cold.
There probably are variations like that we're just not seeing, but they're probably not like as varied as what you're suggesting.
Yeah, and even if there's not, like, I feel like a reasonable GM will let you use alchemist fire instead of liquid ice if that's what you have, / that's what your alchemist is spec'd to do, because it's not that much of a stretch. Just instead of slowing them, like, they catch on fire or some noise like that.
Right. I think that mechanically, yeah, I mean, GMs are going to do that. They're going to let you have, at least me as a GM would be like, this is silly. You can switch out the liquid ice for that. But, for like the alchemist fire or something. But if you get someone who's running raw to the letter, you might run into problems with that. A secondary problem I see with it is 50 gold pieces for the trap itself, and you require 3 vials of liquid ice. Now, if they're mechanically calculating in that you're going to have 3 vials of liquid ice, and that's incorporated into the 50 gold piece cost, that might be something, that's manageable. But if you are going to do it with several different types of consumables, or you're trying to make it modular as a GM, if they have to pay 50 gold pieces to get the mechanical stuff for it, and then they also have to pay for the alchemical items themselves, like the 3 vials of liquid ice, or the 3 alchemist fire, or the 3 acid flasks, I could see how that could feel like just kind of a payment tax for what you're wanting, rather than something that's really making sense if you cannot exchange it out, and if it's not included in the price.
Sure.
Maybe they're just going to give you a lot more money than I'm thinking about, but if they're going back to the silver standard and they're talking about gold piece prices, that means you're paying 500 silver, which is like paying 500 gold for this this possible 3d8 damage and hampered for 10, which is a lot. I mean, hampered 10 is a lot of rounds. Or on a crit failure, double that. That's a lot. It can be, but if you're at snare 8, if you're at 8 and you're making this snare, I don't know the likelihood of them failing a 22 reflex. Whatever this creature is.
Given
they're going to be masters, they're going to be at least. If it's at 8th level, that means you're going to be facing probably 10th level creatures. They're going to at least, they're not going to be legendary or expert or anything, but they may be master at something, and that probably will be one of their saves.
Mm-hmm. Now, by that notion, also, it dawns on me that the ranger should probably have ways to make traps. Anybody already does, like using the stuff around him in his environment without having to pay a mechanical gold cost, just like a survival check or a lore
materials.
nature. Yeah, pretty much. Just like, say you killed a giant porcupine, and you want to turn that dude's spines into some kind of like little miniature like pit trap with little spikes at the bottom. Off the top of my head, that's not the best trap.
Causing spikes.
It's not the best trap in the world, but I mean, it's off the top of my head. Like, you should be able to do that as a ranger, I feel like. Though I will say it's super sweet that somebody on one of my videos commented, and he said it felt like really World of Warcrafty to have 2 players work together to be able to make like the best thing you possibly can. However, I really, really like that because that encourages mechanical like aptitude and mechanical proficiency and system mastery, but it encourages it while also being social with your friends at the table. It's not just like, I'm the wizard, I'm gonna be right back.
Sound Warcrafty to me. That sounds like, hey, I'm going to interact with my fellow party members at least. Like my character is going to interact with the wizard to help me enchant this thing. That only makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and that's where like the fun of the game comes from too. Like, I've done a lot of dumb, broken mechanical things in my time as a tabletop role player, but like most of the memories that I have in the game are from like, okay, for example, I know we talk about, or have talked about Mahariel and Francois on videos in this channel before, and it was, how are we going to get these horses across this chasm? I'm going to feed it a potion of fly. I don't have ranks in handle animal. I'm not that kind of ranger. I'm going to slap it on the butt, roll intimidate, and wish it the best of luck. And we rolled a natural 20, and off we went. And then there were bandits, and we yelled at them while hanging onto ponies flying across the sky to drop all of their stuff and go away. And they did. And that was amazing. And it's a bit of a segue, but like, if we can do that in 2nd edition, if we can work with other players to do cool stuff while also being mechanically amazing, that's a perfect marriage of the min-maxi and the group game that is tabletop role-playing games. Just right there, just flat out.
Having players working together to make something awesome like that is one of my favorite things at a table, to see it done properly. one game I GM'd a trap master maker and a wizard worked together to make traps that are not in the book for ruled as written traps, and it was fun seeing a optimized trap like like that being used against the monster that the trap was used upon.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree completely.
Talking about enchantments, though, does lead us over to the next.
The past blog, yeah. I don't know how I feel about it. I like how it's like socketed things from Diablo 2. How one can move runes around to like, I have a flaming longbow and now I have a flaming great axe, and like back and forth. That feels good. I enjoy that because it's like, frankly, that's less money spent if you want to have a bajillion weapons, and it's Pathfinder 2nd Edition, so obviously you want to have a bajillion weapons because they all do like weird different stuff. So that's really cool. But a lot of the other stuff is kind of like, I don't know how I feel exactly about Resonance. Is still, I'm not out on it. It just means that the lower levels will be a slog. And I also like, I feel like a lot of games, like a lot of people I know will start their campaigns at level 3 to get past that like that early grind, and I feel like in 2nd edition one might start at like level 5 for that same reason, just so people have resonance.
Well, I don't know. I'm the type of player that likes the low levels best. I'm not a big fan of high level play anyway, but like levels 10 to 15 are kind of what I like best. But that aside, personal bias aside, starting at first level will let you grow the character, and you won't be like, no two rogues will be the same at level 1 unless you specifically want to make them the same.
Yeah.
No two rogues are going to be required to be the same at level 1. In fact, they likely won't be because of what you're building for in the campaign and what you got in your background, your ABCs, your ancestry, your
Background and your class.
and your class. How that interacts with the resonance and with the potency of weapons that you're going to get and the resonance that you have with your potions, I don't know, because I'm okay with spending resonance for like weapons, like a disrupting weapon or especially a vorpal weapon, because that's a rune level 17, so you're not necessarily supposed to have that until 17. Which we talked about this when we were in the Starfinder thing. We've talked about it a little bit here. I'm not a fan of locking things behind levels. I understand, but I'm glad that they pointed out that it's not necessarily locked behind a level, but you usually don't find it until this level. That being said, the enchantments and the rune system I do like. I'm even okay with them limiting by the quality how much you can enchant something, because that kind of makes sense to me. Like if you put too much magic into a frail thing, the magic will break it, is how I would kind of headcanon it. I've always wanted to have that type of system in my games anyway, where there's this like exchange. You're paying for the quality because it's meant to make it, because it will handle it better. The weapon will handle the enchantment better. So that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with kind of the way they're going about it so far.
Yeah.
And the modularity of it. Because you could take a Vorpal rune off of something that has Vorpal. Like you could take and exchange enchantments now. Which, say you find a scythe that's Vorpal, which makes sense for a scythe. And an actual scythe that the bad guy was wielding. Well, he had a Vorpal rune on it. But you don't use scythes. Well, you can take the Vorpal rune off, and it'll just be a +4 scythe then, or plus whatever it has to be. Where'd it go?
Has to be
plus whatever it has to be.
I'm looking. Has to be a melee weapon that deals slashing damage.
Okay, so you can take it off of there and put it on your greatsword that your barbarian can use.
Yeah, I like that too.
I mean, because you're going to crit a lot with the bigger weapon.
Yeah, but the thing about that
Be more
is,
powerful
like, the
weapons.
thing I don't like about the Vorpal enchantment, I mean, I like the Vorpal enchantment for, like, what it was in first edition, because it feels good when that happens, but here, it's like, the trigger is I roll a natural 20 and critically succeed with a weapon targeting a creature. If I remember right, that R in activation, that means you're spending your reaction to activate it, or that might mean resonance. Either way, yeah, you have to spend resonance to activate it.
it's
Okay,
resonance.
that's much less like as a reaction, haha. But it feels like by the end of the game, I imagine a DC 35 fort save is peanuts for whatever it is you're going to be fighting. I could be wrong, but I imagine like 35 seems so easy.
DC 35 at, let's say, level 19, 20, 17, as long as you build the character right, you have a 50-50 chance beating that DC.
Yeah, after you make that
you gotta
5%
remember
chance
the
to
numbers.
natural 20, and also that natural 20 is a crit. So it's like, I get the, like, well, I guess I don't get the, like, the tax for it because I haven't seen the meta. I haven't seen any of the monsters. I don't know how the math adds up. But it feels kind of real taxy for, like, what may not even work. If you remove the fort save, I'd be cool. Also,
Well,
like, it's way cheaper. That's really cool.
I'd actually prefer to remove the natural 20 requirement and just if you critically succeed or better. Simply because the DC 35 fort save will be good, will be hard for things that have good fort saves. But at the rune level, at level 17, it's not necessarily the numbers that are the problem, but the proficiency in that save for that creature. Because numbers are going to be smaller in Pathfinder 2e. The numbers will be smaller because they scale off of proficiency. So a +1 is a big deal based upon your proficiency. That's why levels are going to be so important. There's going to be these larger gaps between levels. At least that's what I'm anticipating from what's there in the blogs. So a DC 35 fort save, unless that creature is really spec'd into it, which probably not all of them will be, but some of them will probably have master, perhaps legendary. There will be some legendary fort saves after CR 15, after level 15, or whatever they want to, however they're going to class that. The situation that might arise with it is those. But if you've got a spellcaster, they are not going to be, unless they've invested feats, anywhere near expert or legendary fort saves, which means they're only going to be rocking at best in a master fort save. And they would fail. They would have a likelihood of failing a DC 35, depending on what they're wearing, what they're kitted out with. So,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
that's
so
fair.
upset about the DC of the fort save. I don't like. I like that the resonant. You have to spend a point right then to activate it. The resonance, which is fun. I mean, it's fine. You can choose which things to activate at a certain time. Like you talked about, turning off and on certain things, like a flaming. You can have a flaming and an ice sword, just depending on which rune you activate, depending on what situation you need. So it adds a lot of flexibility. I don't like, well, armor is next, and then we'll get to potions. But spoilers, I don't like that you have to spend resonance for potions. But that's that's afterthought.
Yeah. Also, we should note
armor.
that, like, we kind of ran over this, but the quality of weapons determines how big the potency can be on them and how many different properties you can have. And at Legendary, it's +5 with 3 properties, which means mechanically that's probably more than the +10 bonus you were capped at in Pathfinder First Edition, because you'd have like a +5. My go-to is like speed, keen, impact. Yeah, that's usually what I go with on my weapons. Now you can probably get like speed, Vorpal, something else, whatever the meta says is good, without having to freak out so much about like going over that line, and I like that. I'd also, again, it sells back the fact that the blacksmith and the wizard, or item crafter, I guess I should say, have to work together to make sure their party is properly kitted out. Now, of course, like, the item crafter could also be a blacksmith, and there's like a wizard who's into Torog, and there's all the gear. But it's not necessarily the case, and again, that promotes mechanical excellence by associating with other people, that's just perfect, in my opinion. That's flawless. That's 110% what I want to see.
The item crafting rules, especially when you get runes into them, having a set amount how powerful items can be, it's a nice thing to have. As in Elder Scrolls, Skyrim,
Yeah.
with the enchantment system, without mods, you can easily make game-breaking items at very low level if you just focus on enchantment, blacksmith, and alchemy.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I don't want to say Skyrim is the inspiration. It might be. I don't know. Skyrim was real popular. It's on Alexa now. But, like, it's really cool that, again, you have to work together with your squad to be able to be mechanically excellent. It's not just that one dude sitting in the corner furiously writing in his character sheet, and then he's much better than everyone else.
Well, I like the way that they're doing the proficiency and how big the bonus is for what type of things you can have on it, because it does also make it easier if someone doesn't want to invest in the feats. Like, nobody in the party wants to invest in the crafting feats. It does make it also easier on the GM, saying, like, the party goes to the local crafter and says, or the local blacksmith, and says, I want to have this made. What'll it cost? You know, now the GM can be like, oh, it'll cost, you're going to need the armor from me, and then what's-his-face is going to have to enchant it, get the runes from him, so I can make the armor for this much, and it'll be quite powerful, potent, but you're going to have to find the enchanter in town, The GM doesn't have to work so hard, because he knows if they get a +4, if they get a master armor, then they can have so many enchantments on it, and then all he has to think about is what runes are going to be available at the enchantment area, at the enchantment place.
Sure.
And it does make it a lot more modular for not just the players but the GM, which is cool. Let me see. Invisibility and fortification are the ones that they highlight. I like fortification. Invisibility, don't know. It's an activation, so it doesn't. You gotta invest the basic resonance, but after that,
invisibility, it is useful for someone who doesn't have access to the actual spell itself.
Mm-hmm. And I mentioned it before when we talked about invisibility on the trinkets. I'm like at level 8, invisibility is better. I forget. I'll look now, but I think the trinket was higher than that, if I remember right. But I will look, just so I don't quote for people. But the vanishing coin is the vanishing coin is an item level 9. But the actual rune enchantment for your armor for invisibility is a 8 plus. I mean, I'm not sure how that makes sense. Maybe they're justifying it through the cost of the gold, but that doesn't really make sense, because 5,000 silver pieces can get you a standard level 8 invisibility, and you get it for a minute at 2nd level. I mean, that's all you'll need. Now, if maybe you want something different on your armor, maybe you want fortification on your armor instead of invisibility, but I don't know. 500 gold pieces at level 8 sounds like a bargain to have a rune of invisibility armor.
If they're going to be be adding in greater invisibility as the improved version of it, that's definitely be worth your money overall if you can make use of greater invisibility.
I mean, I would think so. Greater invisibility is only at level 10. That's only 2 later. And if you have to just pay the difference, say you bought it at level 8 for 500 gold pieces, and then you have it re-etched later at level 10, it's only going to cost 1,000 gold pieces. That's only 10,000 silver pieces. And for anybody who plays Pathfinder at wealth per level, level 10, 10,000 silver pieces is going to be nothing. You can have greater invisibility on your armor as a barbarian, like light armor as a barbarian, or whatever you want to say. Or you could have your fighter with greater invisibility on his armor for a measly 1,000 gold pieces, and he can waltz into anywhere and have a plus whatever on his stealth. Whatever bonus on his stealth. I forget if they've highlighted invisibility or not. But that's pretty powerful.
Invisibility for any martial class that they provide for it is definitely worth the investment right there, especially for a rogue, especially assassin combat rogue alone.
Yeah, I feel like overly generous GMs are going to have a rough time in second edition. Because and I say this as a fairly generous GM, you're going to have to watch that money, because that power creep's going to be real when the money starts flowing.
The one issue I ran into being very generous to my players when I GM is when it comes to CR, it's balanced around a certain system, so usually 15 or 20 point buy, and then having certain items by default. So if you give the players enough gold to buy items that are above their LCR, that's going to throw off encounter balance all together. So that is something should take into consideration when it comes to fixing item prices when it comes to playtest afterwards.
That is a fair assessment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a low-level party having all the resources and gold, they easily can potentially break a high CR encounter easily enough if they had the time to make those magic items to beat that boss.
Yeah, and it does kind of trivialize the trinket that stealths you for sure. Which is it's weird.
It's 10 times as much at an earlier level to have full-on invisibility. Not one round, full-on invisibility for a full minute to get through that guard post or wherever you need to be. Because you're not going to get through it in 6 seconds. So, I mean, you could, but you'd have to run and take a penalty to your sneak again. So, and penalties will be heavier in second edition, it seems. So, I don't know. We're going to have to play that one out. The fortification seems... The pricing seems to be all over the place for the cost of things. You got 50 gold pieces for a one-time use freezing snare that does a good amount of damage, fair enough, but they still have to trigger it. So you have to funnel them somewhere, and to get that to trigger. So if they're smart, most smart enemies, especially at I mean, this is snare of level 8, they may not come to you. They will likely have a ranged option, especially if their intelligence is if their intelligence is 12 or above, they're likely to carry around some kind of ranged option. They might not be very good, but they'll likely have something, especially in a high magic setting.
Based upon what type of trap it is, and if said rival trap maker know the trap, then they could potentially activate the trap at range using a ranged weapon, say something like a crossbow, to activate the trap activating device to set it off. that's one tactic to disarm a trap for the rest of the rival NPC enemy group to go in once the trap's been disarmed.
Right. Well, I mean, if they spot the trap, then you're just straight out of luck anyway. Or if they have some kind of preparation. If they know that the PCs are already setting traps, they're going to be super cautious around. But the reason I say that the pricing seems to be kind of all over the place is the fortification seems appropriately priced if you're going by silver standard at level 18, but at level 12 it's only 2,000 gold pieces with a DC 17. So I mean, why is there some kind of typo here where the DC is higher at standard and less at greater, or what am I missing something?
It's the reason that is I can actually speak to that because someone corrected me on the video. The DC is higher at lower levels because you don't add anything to the flat check and you don't ever add anything to it. So the lesser fortification, quote unquote, or okay, excuse me, the standard one, you roll a d20 and you have to hit a 17 for it to go. The greater one,
the wearer has to.
Yeah, and then the greater one you roll and you have to hit a 14. It felt really weird to me as well when I first saw it. I didn't understand it, but that's why.
Okay.
From what I'm told.
I don't particularly like that then.
Yeah,
But
I am sure. I'm sure most of the item pricing will be fixed when all the issues have been fixed after the playtest before the official release of the of Pathfinder Second Edition.
Right. Well, I'd hope so, because you look at that, you look at those prices, and I mean, fortification used to be really good. You'd want it, but hitting a DC 17, no bonuses, that's not easy. That's like a 15% chance that you're going to negate that. No, wait, 7, 8, 10. Yeah, 15% chance you're going to negate that. That's not a lot.
Yeah.
14, that's only a 30% chance that you're not going to negate that.
One enchantment that I want to see on the armor, it is the shadow enchantment and the improved version of that, because that is
it was so good.
Because that is the easiest way to get stealth
trivialized. It's the easiest way to be never seen again. The shadow enchantment. Here, take a free plus 15 on your already obscene stealth check, Mr. Shadow Dancer.
He's right behind you.
Yeah.
But we're in a 5 foot by 5 foot box. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, mechanically, that's how it works. But it would be interesting seeing that played out. I know you're here, but I can't see you. Where are you? It's like the Skyrim bandage or guard AI. They tried to find you, and then you disappear off of their radar.
Must have been my imagination.
My imagination.
Arrow sticking out the dude's neck.
Must have been my imagination.
That was pretty good. The jet will make you jittery.
Oh wait, potions are the last thing on there, I guess. I don't know. I don't like spending resonance and gold for something.
Yeah.
I mean, I see that they lowered the prices. These are one-time use things, and see, this is what trinkets should be priced. If they're one-time use things, and you're getting signals that, oh, you guys better watch it, because this is going to be going to be a deadlier system. But you better make sure you count your coin and make sure you're spending your money right, or it's going to be deadly. But then you get these prices. Some things are way overpriced and way underpriced based upon that assessment that's being made, or that assumption, I guess. Because a minor healing potion is 3 gold pieces. You ain't gonna make any money. I mean, that's 30 silver. So if the rest of the world is functioning off of silver, it doesn't matter, because the party will be functioning off of gold standard. That's a problem that you ran into with the first edition. Is you had everybody else operating under one standard of living, and then adventurers operating off of another, and there was this really big disconnect between the two. It's really, really evident in Adonijah's game when he's playing Moon. He just tosses gold around like it's nothing because he got
Yeah.
1,000 gold as a starter, and he was supposed to buy, equipment and needed stuff. Well, he bought a few things, but the rest of it just sits in his inventory, and he just buys whatever he feels like doing. He bought a year of a room.
He has
A
too. I
year's
saw it. I
logic.
was there. Well, I wasn't there, but I saw
Yeah.
that. He's real generous with his gold. That boy is.
Yeah, when I see
I'll
Yeah.
overpay by
Good
like
reputation
50%.
around town.
Haha.
yeah, when I see the amount of gold that Addy is spending, does he not actually take into consideration how much gold he is actually spending? Because he effectively paying 1.5 or more for things he shouldn't
Yeah.
be paying the price at.
Well, I do that on purpose. I overcharge him so that he would eventually you're gonna run out of gold. Got a bargain. But see, that just illustrates the difference between him and a commoner. That pay scale difference is exorbitant. And if you don't incorporate the difference between a silver standard and a gold standard in an effective way in your thing, in your system, if you set it up that way, then you're going to run into the situation that you had before in first edition where it doesn't matter what you throw at the party because they're going to be operating on the gold standard while all of your NPCs, including enemies, are going to be operating off the silver standard. So I just don't know. There's mixed signals coming through, and I don't like spending. All that said, I don't like spending resonance for a healing potion that you've already paid for. I understand the idea behind it, but I don't like it. I mean, you've taxed the player for it. If you want to tax the player, make it more expensive. Don't make them spend resonance for it.
Yeah.
Resonance is supposed to be for fun stuff.
Mm.
And my only issue with potions, some of the higher cost potions, if you're going to be making them essential in high level games, you need to definitely reduce the cost, unless if the GM is going to be generous with the amount of gold, people are going to run into the issue of cost for the potion and not having the gold to buy them when they actually need it. So reducing the potion cost to a certain extent would be nice to see if it can be done in a effective manner, while still having the expensive and very pricey price tag those potions have, whether you make them by yourself or buy them.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
9,000, 10,000 gold for a potion that you use once. That is a pretty expensive one-time consumable. So reducing it to 3/4 of that, it's still going to be very expensive, but you still have that feel that it's very expensive and it have the what would be in-game label of rare or super rare next to it for its use.
Sure.
I will say though, I do like and understand why they would have you spend resonance for the dragon breath potion. Because it doesn't feel like a healing potion. It doesn't feel like a thing that's really
Life or death.
yeah, it's like it's specifically something that you're using. I think that if it's handled judiciously, you could even get rid of resonance spending for that if you made it where it was an item that was kind of rare and harder to find, or it was harder to craft. Because I like that it actually explicitly says, hey, this is a dragon's breath weapon. It comes from a type of creature called a worm, and you need to know what type it is in order to use it appropriately. Not only that, but this also opens up the idea to a basically very Monster Hunter themed campaign, which I've always thought would be really fun, especially for a ranger.
Yeah.
that you could go out and hunt monsters, and your armor was made out of monster parts, and all your crafting was done from monster parts. Makes it feel very visceral and very real when you're making junk out of the bullet, or you're making stuff out of the three heads of the chimera, and its duplicitous nature manifesting in a weapon or that had a rune crafted with its blood, or things along those lines. I mean, that can be really, really cool and flavorful.
My favorite.
And if they incorporate it into the thing, like they seem to kind of be doing with the Dragon's Breath potion, that would be pretty awesome.
The Dragon's Breath potion has always been like, it exists in Pathfinder First Edition. I'm 90% sure I know it exists in 5th edition, and I always like people like, this is so great, you gotta take this, you gotta do it, but I never do. But then you see it like mechanically spelled out in the blog, and I really like it. Also, I really, really, really like that the Green Dragon's Breath weapon is a fort save now, not a reflex save. I think that is so flavorful. I think that is so cool. To be honest with you, I think the White Dragon could have been a fort save too. I saw that in one of my comments, and yeah, that makes total sense. And it's also like, that makes the Green Dragon mechanically, I know that has nothing to do with potions, but it makes him a little more playable versus like like rogues and things.
Are going to have to be taken really seriously because they breathe out poison now. They don't breathe out just a gas, which, I mean, chlorine gas is bad. You should not, it's bad for you, but you didn't feel like it was as bad when you were in 1st edition because you could still like reflex out of it. And most people built around the idea of, if I'm probably eventually going to fight something with a breath weapon that I'm going to need to reflex out of, and it made, again, Dex all the more viable in 1st edition. But if you know you're going to be facing dragons, you got to know what type of dragon, and if they varied up, like, I mean, electricity, it makes sense to have a reflex save.
Fire as well.
Fire, reflex for fire and all that. But like you said, for the silver dragon and the white dragon, that cold, if it's cold, or if it's even acid, could get away with it, kind of. But the green and the silver, if you had 3 of each, I mean, if you had, three of each, 3 that did fort and 3 that did reflex, you could have a variety there that made it harder to metagame around, and it would require actual thoughts from the characters, the research from the characters, not the players, to figure it out.
Having variation of the Dragon Breath item, having will saves to make for a certain type of breath would be quite interesting to see. Most breath attacks ruled as written, it's either a fortitude save or a reflex save based upon the type being done. So having a will save for the odd dragon type, that would be rather quite interesting to throw a wrench into the player's saves.
Well, you do kind of get that with dragons as spellcasters.
Yeah.
So there is that thing to consider.
True, but that's a separate thing dragons can do. But have it a actual variant dragon breath, that would be interesting.
Yeah, like for example, the Imperial Forest Dragon. The Imperial Forest Dragon is probably my favorite because his breath weapon is, like I said in the Half Dragon video today, it's Razor Leaf, so it does piercing damage. So that could target like touch, say, and that's super cool. And again, it takes something that we've had for since the beginning of the game that this thing's named after, and it puts a fresh spin on it, and it makes the meta turn on its head. I really like that.
Yeah. Also, this oil of mending, what does that do?
That fixes your shield, and shields are the best thing forever.
Yeah,
mending as a spell or any item repair spells are quite great.
Yeah, for sure, especially because like your shield will get dented when you're using shields in Pathfinder 2nd edition, and like you're gonna be, because they're real good. There's a reason Paizo revealed that one first. It's amazing. And now you can just drop,
Amazing.
what is it? You drop doodly-doo scrolling 6 gold pieces, not a lot of much at all, and you spend some resonance, and the fighter probably isn't spending his resonance like other classes are. I could be wrong, and there's certainly a million ways to skin the owlbear that is a character build. But, like, if I'm a fighter and I'm trying to do that phalanx thing, or if I'm trying to sword and board, I am for sure going to buy a bunch of oils of mending and just buff up my shield before the cleric uses a spell to buff up my shield, and then we're back into combat again. Super good.
One build I
Well,
can see being somewhat effective. It's a wizard taking a single level into fighter just to be proficient with the armor and shields, just for AC alone.
Yeah.
Well, are they still doing armor penalties? I mean, for spell casting?
I
I
don't
think
remember.
I
I
think
imagine.
I think there's going to be some type, but I could be wrong. I know in 5e, a wizard, as long as have one level in a martial class that proficient with armor, they can wear that armor and cast spells in it all day without any problem. So I can see something like a penalty of some kind in second edition, but that would be quite interesting to see a wizard wearing something like leather armor or something that have a low penalty, and then use feats to reduce that penalty even more. Especially if you go with the better armor, you can get potentially if you go in that direction.
For sure.
Well, I believe we read that that using something untrained causes a -2 penalty, I think it is. But I don't remember it specifically calling out spell failure.
I don't either.
If there's no spell failure, then you're going to run into that thing with, like you did with Skyrim. Everybody's going to be either an arcane archer or a magic tank.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just optimize out, because you can, and not just any magic tank, you'll be a sorcerer magic tank, so you can have the highest resonance possible. You're gonna be a sorcerer or paladin, archer, and have the highest resonance possible. And that can be, if one build becomes the best, period, which a sorcerer fighter multi-class, even if they nerf multi-classing, is going to be super viable if there's no arcane spell failure.
I think there is. There's got to be something. I don't 100% remember. I think it probably messes with like your somatic component or something like that. I don't know. We're 12 minutes over the line though. So not that I like resent talking to you guys for a million hours.
I don't talk to you anyway.
Yeah, like you guys aren't my friends anymore. Nope, can't do it. Just can't. But yeah, we are sitting at that time where I've got to go edit my Ranger video so I can go to bed at a decent hour before like 3 in the morning, which probably isn't gonna happen. YouTuber probs. So as always, thank you guys so much for coming out and watching. And we do these every other week over at the Inn of Planar Crossroads, and truly, you guys are getting half the conversation if you don't mosey on over to their channel. Also, we play Rune Lords. Also, there's going to be an evil one-shot that Donald and I are going to be showing up and being terrible in, so that's super amazing, and I'm really looking forward to it. As always, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos, and we'll see you guys next time. Say bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
There it is.